Started with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good morning. It's August 29th. Welcome to the Shawnee County Board of County Commissioners. I'm Aaron Mays. I'm the chair this year. I represent District 3. On my left is Commissioner Bill Rippon, representing District 1. Before we get started today, I just want to acknowledge the death of Bob Archer over the weekend and send our condolences to his family. Bob was my predecessor on the commission, as well as we held the same city council seat for a short period of time as well. So I've gotten to know Bob pretty well over the years, and so he'll be greatly missed. And Commissioner Rippon, did you have anything you'd like to say?
Bob was very instrumental in helping me when I first started in this job, and I relied on him a little bit, just watching him as much as anything, and seeing how he handled his meetings, and so he'll be missed. Yeah,
he also was instrumental in making a lot of tough decisions with the county budget and getting us back on track and kind of setting us up for success in the way that we are now with our reserves and things. So, the county owes him a debt of gratitude, and again, condolences to his family. All right. So, that being said, let's go ahead and get started. Madam Clerk.
Okay, item 1, proclamations, presentations. A, consider approval of resolution number 2022-73, authorizing the Parks and Recreation to change the name of Pinecrest Park to Nellie Hogan Park, officially recognizing her volunteerism and commitment to the community.
Good morning, Commissioners. Tim Laurent, Shawnee County Parks and Recreation. As the clerk said, we're here today. This is a great day to really honor Nellie Hogan and all the community service that she's done over the years. Nellie was one of the first people that I met when I started this position, and it's funny how we end up in a lot of the same places, a lot of the same meetings, and she's very involved, and she's a wonderful person. So with that, I would like to introduce Terry Roberts, the chair of the Shawnee County Parks and Recreation Advisory Board.
Thank you, Tim. Terry Roberts, I'm the chairperson of the Shawnee County Parks and Rec Advisory Committee. Thank you, and thank you for putting this on the agenda. The advisory committee took this up at the recommendation of the Highcrest NIA, which made a unanimous decision to recommend the changing of the name of the Pinecrest Park to the Nellie Hogan Park. Nellie moved into the Highcrest West neighborhood in 1961 and has been a valued member of that community since. She was a leader for the Campfire Girls for 15 years, from 1962 to 1977, and president of the Campfire Girls Council for 2 years. She was a room mother at Avondale East Elementary School. She organized after-school programs for the kindergarten, first and second grades, providing games, foods, crafts. And she organized a monthly evening food program of food, games, and fellowship at Avondale East for a year, soliciting grocery stores for refreshments. And she mentored 3 years for the Rescue Mission's Dare to Dream program that was held there. Nellie has been an officer of the Highcrest Neighborhood Improvement Association in various offices throughout the 33 years. She has served as the treasurer, the vice president, and acting secretary. Even after moving from the area in 1995, she attended the NIA meetings and brought food and gifts to the annual Christmas event. And while living in Barrington, she was a foster parent for many children until 2013, when she moved back and again became an officer for the NIA. Even before the NIA was approved in 1989, Nellie helped organize a neighborhood watch in which she and husband Ed ran one of the 2 CB-based radio stations. Isn't that interesting how far we've come? And patrolled at least 4 times a month while both worked full-time and there was basically no crime. Currently, Nellie checks in people for the monthly Harvesters Food Program since it was established at Avondale East, and she helped organize the National Night Out Against Crime event held at Betty Phillips Park, donating items, working hard to make it success, just as she did along with the many others to make the formerly neglected neighborhood park a success. In 1993, she was recognized as an ERC Unsung Hero awardee for her commitment to our community, and the advisory committee believes that Shawnee County would be well served with this official park renaming. And my colleague, Joe Ledbetter, would also like to make a few comments. Before I do, I would like Nellie to please stand. Thank you, Nellie.
Thank you, Terry. Thank you, Commissioners and the governing body. I want to echo basically what was said earlier, so I won't repeat it. But when I became president the second time after I finished law school and became a licensed attorney in 2013, I volunteered to be the president again if they wanted me, and I stayed for 5 years the second time of High Crest as president. And during that time, Nellie was very helpful and instrumental. We went to board meetings with 501. You talk about being bugged. They were bugged. They got that school reopened, and it's been a great success for all the social service agencies that operate out of there. And so Nellie's been instrumental. She's a homeowner in that area. She lives over there right across from the school. And we'd love to see this park renamed. It's named after a street, so we thought we'd be a lot more interesting. Nellie's a lot more interesting than just the street name. And we really support this. The advisory supported it unanimously, and of course I'm part of that group. So I encourage you to pass this resolution, and thank you in advance.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak? Okay. All right, well, I guess I'll make a motion that we approve the resolution.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made by Commissioner May, seconded by Commissioner Rippon. Those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 2-0. Let's go ahead and pause for a photo.
Yeah.
If you don't
Yeah,
mind, Nellie, would
great.
you come on up? Let's go ahead and get some of the Parks and Rec folks up here, board members, Joe, Terry, Walt.
Yeah.
Mr. Ward's jacket.
Yeah.
Don't forget my jacket. I'll stand over here next to Tim. You always
There you go.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. Awesome.
Great, all right. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Well deserved.
Yes, Betty Phillips, Betty Dunn and I set out to write some things many years ago, and Rich Welker named us the bitches from hell.
I wasn't on the mic. I'm glad you were at the mic saying that.
Anyway, now we have the 3 parks.
That's great. That's great. There we go.
History.
Yeah. Oh, that's hilarious. All right. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Item 3, consent agenda.
We've got 3 items on the consent agenda today. If there's no objection to any of those, I'll make a motion that we approve them.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Mace, seconded by Commissioner Rippon. Those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 3-0. Next item, please.
Item 4, new business. A, County Clerk, number 1, consider all voucher payments.
Okay, under detention facilities paid with ARPA and SLFRF funds, Meridian Roofing Solutions, $98,500 is for Phase 2 of roof replacement. Under Sheriff, Kansas Highway Patrol, $22,600 is for the purchase of a 2020 Dodge Charger. Under Sewer Districts, Kansas State Department of Health and Environment totaling $28,700 $85.65 for payment for 2 loans for Sherwood Pumping Station and collection service, or collection system improvements. Total vouchers as of August 26, 2022 is $1,304,721.44. There's no comments or questions. I'd move for approval of the vouchers.
I'll second. Motion's been made by Commissioner Rippon, seconded by Commissioner Mays. Those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 2-0. Next item, please.
Item A2, consider correction orders.
I'll move approval of the correction orders.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Mays, seconded by Commissioner Rippon. Those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 2-0. Next item, please.
Item B, Planning Department, number 1, public hearing and consider approval of resolution number 2022-74, the rezoning of 21.2 acres at 9534 Southwest Topeka Boulevard in Williamsport Township from RR1 Residential Reserve District to C2 Commercial 2 District to allow for a social event center and other future commercial businesses.
Good morning, Commissioners. Joni Fedani, Director of Planning Department. What we have here today is a rezoning, Sunrise Holdings. It's an amendment to rezone 21 acres from RR1 to Commercial C2. The intent of the applicant is to put a social event center on this property, which, as you may recall, a lot of times we do in an RR district just using a conditional use permit. This came before the planning department originally prior to my input as an interim director. And so they moved forward at that stage as commercial because there had been some input by the applicant that he saw some future use that may have more commercial style activity. And he wanted to, or there's multiple people involved in the venture, but they wanted to make sure that they had access to the property to be able to use it for the purposes of which they wanted to in the future, originally setting that out as a social event center. It is located at 9534 Southwest Topeka Boulevard down in Williamsport Township. This first came on to the planning department back in May. I believe May 9 was the original date for the planning commission meeting. Typically, we bring these properties or these types of applications on much quicker to the Board of County Commissioners for consideration and approval. However, the applicant did ask to delay for a little bit. They were looking into some additional uses for the property, and they wanted to make sure prior to rezoning as commercial that whatever they were looking to do would fall under that commercial use and that they didn't need to modify the request to rezone. Currently, the property is not being used. There are some older dilapidated buildings on the north end of the property, as you'll see in some pictures that we have coming. Historical uses have been for the Wakarusa Sale Barn. They've done, other prior owners have used it for animal rescue, distributing movable buildings. At some point, somebody has lived there in an apartment. In 1999, this board considered a conditional use permit for a cell tower, and that's been in operation on that property ever since that time. As I mentioned, they do have ideas for other future commercial uses on the north end, and then the event center will be located on the south end. This property is located between Topeka Boulevard and Highway 75. It is immediately in between both of those busy roads. You can see here it's located inside that yellow box. On the right is Highway 75. A little bit further to the right there, in between the blue, is the archery club. On the left side, you'll see some residences, and then on the north, you'll see residences. Directly left is Topeka Boulevard. This is the notification area. We were notifying 16 other neighbors. The drawing here shows at the top, you can see the dilapidated buildings. The further south, where he has marked in the venue and a parking lot, is where those would be located, coming in from the south side or the southern part of the property. Off to the right, you see a circle with it marked lagoon. That's where they will put any environmental health septic system. Here's a picture of the cell tower that's located on the property. These are the current buildings that are located on the northern end. This would be the entrance off of Southwest 97th Street, which is just on the south side of the property, if they're able to utilize that road. And this is the entrance into the cell tower. You can see that's gated off. One hope had originally been maybe they could utilize that entrance to get into the property, but based on the conditional use permit, that area is gated off and not allowed to be used for other purposes. This is 97th Street looking towards the east from Topeka Boulevard. As you can see, it's not a major road. It's a pretty narrow road. This is looking at 97th Street also from Topeka Boulevard. On the south end here is a park that is a county park, but it's very little and it's not utilized for any purpose other than I think that people like to throw trash and it's a little bit messy. The applicant, I will say, no, the applicant has worked on cleaning up some little areas of this. It doesn't have any playground equipment. There's nothing there other than it's just a green space. But the applicant has cleaned up that area a little bit because it's not a normally used space. Input from the public. There are 16 letters sent out to the property owners within 1,000 feet. We received one phone call ahead of time in opposition from the property owner just to the north. We also received an email ahead of time in support of the amendment prior to the Planning Commission meeting. 3 neighbors appeared to speak in opposition. One of those was the caller that had called in originally. And then after the Planning Commission approved this matter, we did receive another email from the Archery Club that had sent an email in support. They had to have a meeting and vote on their support, and they did do that. Concerns that came from staff and other departments. As I mentioned, 97th Street is a rural local street. It is a substandard right-of-way width. For purposes of commercial traffic, it would not be wide enough, and so would need to be improved to county standards before it could be used for commercial traffic, and before they could put an entrance into the venue. The preference of the Public Works Department is that they use access along Southwest Topeka Boulevard. Unfortunately, it's a little bit difficult even with that because the property already has 2 entrances into the property, and so adding a third along there is not ideal. I believe the applicant can speak to this, but they would like to improve 97th Street to widen it, improve it to where they can use 97th for the traffic in and out and for an entrance. That would be their preference over entering into the property from Topeka Boulevard. A lot of that has to do with traffic and safety and hoping to keep their patrons from coming in and out off of Southwest Topeka Boulevard. Originally, when I presented this to the Planning Commission, one of the recommendations from staff and from one of the other departments with the county was that parking areas and driveways needed to be paved and striped. We moved forward at the Planning Commission with that recommendation, even though there was some contention among the planning commissioners. That is an expensive requirement to have them pave it and stripe it before they even open. A lot of the commissioners didn't want to cause a hindrance, and they felt like that was unnecessary. Based on what we had read at that point from the regulations, we felt like it needed to be a requirement. So we moved forward at that juncture, requiring that they include paving and striping. I, at this point, have changed my recommendation after doing some additional research. I reached out to the county counselor's office, and we did some checking into other C2 locations in the unincorporated county. And in fact, from what we were able to find, no other C2 location within the unincorporated county was paved. A lot of them are gravel. And so we felt like at that point that we would be requiring them to do something that no other C2 location was required to do. We went back and looked at the regulations as well, and the requirement to pave and stripe is very minimal. It actually, I don't even say that we could require it based on the language. It's confusing, and I don't feel like making it a requirement is based on our regulations. So I would ask that we remove that condition, as you'll see a little bit further. Existing buildings up on the north end would need to be improved to conform to commercial building and fire code requirements if used in the future. We don't know at this stage whether they would use those or tear them down. I don't know if they, this point, know whether they would use them or not, but that would be a necessary requirement. I did find that the proposal would comply with the golden factors. It is an appropriate use based on historical use of the property. Previously as a sale barn, animal rescue, there were a lot of people coming and going from that property. It was a very busy property for a very long period of time. It is suitable due to the location between two major roads, and in addition to that, there is an exit off of Highway 75 just north of this property as well. It would create a reinvestment into this area and clean up the property. Several of the people mentioned that although they weren't necessarily in support of this measure, that they recognized that this would clean up the property and make it nicer for their area. It would reduce the historical intensity of the use of the property. At this stage as a social event center, it wouldn't be a daily usable property. It would be more weekends and evenings. And I did find that it would be consistent with the Shawnee County Comprehensive Plan. At the Planning Commission meeting, as I mentioned, there was a lot of discussion about the rezoning. One of the commissioners acknowledged he might not like the use of the property if it were his neighbor, but he found that it did comply with the golden factors, and so he felt like it needed to be recommended for approval. One of the commissioners brought up the requirement to pave and asked to eliminate that requirement, so there was a lot of discussion around that. The same commissioner attempted to eliminate another condition in order to save on cost for the applicants, but ultimately the application passed as was recommended 6-0 with all conditions. After the Planning Commission meeting, as I mentioned, the applicant asked to defer consideration of the property. Our office looked into the pavement requirements. We did defer the action from the BCC. And then written notice was sent to all neighbors within 1,000 feet. We did send notice to the neighbors ahead of time that we were deferring action, and then we sent out an official notice last week in regards to this meeting to make sure that everybody was aware that this was going to come on for today's hearing. My recommendations would be to approve the rezoning with all of the conditions as proposed, except I would recommend that we remove number 1. The resolution in front of you has all of those conditions in place, and so obviously you have the authority to consider it as is and to approve it as is, but my recommendation at this stage would be to remove number 1 and to keep the other requirements in place. I would provide another resolution that has been reviewed and stamped off for form and legality if the commission wishes to remove that. And I have no further presentation. At this point, we can open the public hearing. If no other questions.
This 97th Street improvement, would that be the developer's expense?
It would be. The applicant would have to improve that street, but they would have to do so to county standards, because then once it's improved, it would be taken over for maintenance in the future by the county.
Can you put that slide back up?
Sure.
That shows the site plan.
This is the picture of it.
Okay. How long is this road? Do you have any?
Let me show you here on the.
Well, up to the entrance, it's not very long at all.
Can't be very far.
So if you can see down here, let me see if I can. This here is where that little park is.
Yeah.
And it's kind of an interesting entrance, because up at the top right here is where 97th actually starts and comes down and around over here. And then it does go under US 75. So it's just that little stint between Topeka Boulevard and Highway 75. And the archery club actually utilizes that to get into their property. And so for them to have an improved street would also be beneficial. But they come in and go under, and that's the only people who would be using 97th would be the people going to the archery club and this property itself, because those are the only two properties that road accesses.
What kind of improvements would they have to make to bring this up to speed?
I honestly don't know. Personally, I'm not sure if anybody from Public Works, the applicant may be able to indicate, because he has talked with them and worked with them. I believe widening is the biggest thing to make it a wider road.
Sort of in the same vein of, access, you mentioned the cell phone
Correct.
tower and the road adjacent to that, and you said that the reason they couldn't use that was because of the existing conditional use permit. Is there a way to modify that, enabling them to use that?
I'll show you here where so there's two entrances to the property already. One being up here. So this is up to the top part, the northern buildings up here. This is the entrance right here to the cell tower. And so if you can see, it's actually quite a bit further to the north. We could go back and look at modifying that conditional use permit. Like I said, it was put into play back in 1999. I don't know that there's ever been a review of that conditional use permit. I do know that the person who owns it is active in utilizing that cell tower. It's not a defunct cell tower at this point. We could reach out if it became necessary to use those top two entrances and not to improve 97th. I will say that the applicant will probably indicate their preference is to enter off of 97th Street. And I think that their preference would be to put that money into the road so that they could utilize that part of the entrance instead of doing it from the north.
Okay, well, and that's fine if that's the preference, but
Yes.
I didn't get that impression. Earlier when you were talking about it, it sounded like maybe that was the initial plan, was to try and use the cell phone access road, so.
Our preference, if they do not utilize 97th, is that we not have to put a third entrance in. Just because 3 entrances off of Southwest Topeka Boulevard, where it's fairly busy, would be better. However, the preference to put the third entrance on Topeka Boulevard wins out over using 97th Street without it being improved. Ultimately, if they don't improve 97th, they either have to put in a third entrance, or we would go back and look at whether that cell tower entrance could be used. And if that means modifying the cell tower conditional use permit, then we could definitely look into that.
Okay. Will there be any kind of signage with this as well, do you know?
I do believe that they intend to put sign up. That isn't a part of this at this point. They would have to come back to us and ask for a permit for a sign once they get that all up and running so that it complies with our sign requirements.
Okay, and then, what's going on with the park out there? I mean, how did we end up with a little tiny park in the country?
I'm not exactly sure of the property that we're discussing, but I'm sure it came over in the merger, and so it's probably just green space that we'll go out and look at immediately.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Yeah,
Check the deed restrictions on it too, please.
absolutely.
I know a little bit about park history, but it was never city property, so I don't know where, I'd never heard of it till today.
Mr. Jepson may be able to speak to it because he knows a little bit about it in terms of historical use. So when he comes up as part of his, he could give a little more input. Maybe it's not a county park, but I do know that it is set up as a park and there is a sign there, I believe, that indicates, or no sign?
News to me.
No sign. So maybe it is just green space, but I believe that it is slated as a park.
Okay.
Sure, I have another question. Joni, at the south end of the property, that area that's delineated with the diagonal lines, what is that representing?
There is a floodplain
Floodplain.
along there. Yep, if we can see from this, right here, you can see all the blue.
Okay.
And it is just on the north end of that, and obviously you can see it runs along the right of the archery club there, and then all along in the bottom there.
Okay. And this lagoon that's there, does that have any use or purpose it's just above that?
It is not in there yet. That's where they would put one in for the use of the social event center, and so that would be directly correlated to the event center and usage for that property.
I assume that has to be outside of the floodplain, though.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And,
Any other questions?
no.
All right, then I'll make a motion that we open the public hearing.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Mays, seconded by Commissioner Rippon. Those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 2-0. We're in a public hearing. Would the applicant like to speak at all?
I think I can clarify a couple of things.
Okay, that'd be great. Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Gary Jepson. My wife Carrie, oh, sorry about that. Don't talk with your hands. My wife Carrie is here, and Shanda Beers, one of our partners in the Sunrise Holding. Nate Beers is not present. He is committed with some job obligations. We bought this property back, I think, in February or March. It didn't actually even come on the market, but it's a great location out in the country. It's been used as a sale barn, as she said. The lady that had it was running an animal rescue. It was an absolute mess. I think there maybe have been even a junkyard in there at one time or another. There were still some auto parts that we've been cleaning up. But we went in there originally with the intent of taking the sale barn and converting it into a venue. But at further review and talking to Marvin, who's the neighbor to the north, he was concerned about noise, and we want to be good neighbors. So we said, well, if we roll down, it's a hilly spot. It rolls down and then it flattens out. And there's a cliff down there that then breaks off and goes down to where the floodplain is. So we would be above that cliff of rock. The lagoon would be out of the floodplain, as you asked. That's just what happens to happen. The sale barn did have a lagoon associated with it. It's pretty much filled in now, and since it hasn't been used as a sale barn for years, they don't have the same runoff that they had. But there was a lagoon there. I've talked to Public Works about, well, I'm not sure if it's the right department, but about wastewater treatment, and they would like to see us put a septic in if it'll perk. I've dug some holes down there. I don't think it will, but they're not official holes. So with the size of the facility, we think we still would like to go with the lagoon. The venue that we're planning is approximately 8,500 square feet to 10,000, roughly an 80 by 100 building to 80 by 120. Ideally, seating somewhere around 350 people. We believe that's a niche in the Topeka market that's not being met right now for a rural type of setting for weddings and other event meetings and corporate events. And with what's going on in South Topeka and some of the growth out there, I think there's going to be a great opportunity for, hosting meetings for some of these companies as they build out that way. The thing we've been running into is we're trying to figure out what else we can do with the other, 7 to 10 acres up on top that would be consistent with the wedding venue thing. And right now we're still up in the air. We talked about adding some small, I don't know what you call them, the small camping type cabins so that the guests could stay there after their event. I think that's allowable, but I'm not sure about that. Joni and I have talked a number of options there, and none of which under the current C2 is going to work. But that's not as critical as trying to get the event center going. And we've mulled around long enough on this thing. It's like, let's just move forward and get the event center going, and we'll figure it out as time goes on. I think Randy, when he was in charge of the Planning Commission, kind of understood what we wanted to do, and he was in process of changing the rules to bring them forward. I think they're probably looking at the way they're written. They're probably written in the 70s. Smoke shops, leather shops, things like that are some of the things that were allowed. And it's like, yeah, I haven't seen those around in a long time. But I think, just as a general side note, we probably as a county need to look at these zoning regs and look at our classifications and try to bring them to a little bit more modern standard. And so, anyway, as far as 97th Street, my understanding is we were only obligated to improve 97th to the entrance area. So, I don't have the fancy pointer, but that would just bring us, my understanding, this probably about 150-foot long area over to where we were going to come in and do that. So there are, as Joni pointed out, there's a road that goes around here. There's a road that goes down there. There's a county park between those two roads, or we're not sure what the designation is. We've even offered to clean it up just as part of our venue. We want a first-class, top-notch. We want it to look nice out there, and so we're willing to go in there and clean that up like we've already started on the road side. Signage would be above our entrance. The problem with, if we did come off of Topeka Boulevard, we've talked to Evergy, they've got power lines out there that sag pretty low. They're gonna have to put new poles in or something to raise them up so we can put signage that we envision anyway, if we can get it approved, underneath that power line. So not really ideal. If we come in off of 97th, the signage would be better. And there are turning lanes already existing there, so where they're not on Topeka Boulevard. So we think from a safety standpoint, it's better to come in off of 97th. But it's just gonna have to be widened. I can't remember, I had the measurements, but it's probably about 20 feet too narrow right now to meet county standards. So
Okay.
anyway, if any other questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions? Yeah, go ahead.
97th Street, back to that, is that a county road or what,
It'd be county maintained, yeah.
county maintained? That probably explains why there's a park there when they put that road
Well,
in.
and I looked it up on the GIS to look. So if you look at the GIS, right along, it's easier to just show. So obviously Topeka Boulevard comes along and that's all county maintained. And then this is all part of that and it just kind of sways in here and in here. So all of this falls within that county right away.
I imagine when they put the road in, they probably chopped into somebody's property and then they probably had to buy it as probably part of the condemnation or whatever to get the road in there.
I'm also kind of wondering, I don't have enough history. I've been gone from Topeka for a long time and came back. I'm thinking the Wakarusa River Bridge that's there probably got moved because there's a slight jog in Topeka Boulevard. So I think that they jogged the new bridge to the west, and that left this piece of kind of unowned land, if you will, or whatever, down there. But the problem is Joni pointed out, the police, the sheriff sits down there some, but there's also a lot of people when you drive by at night sitting down there, and there's no visibility from the highway if you go on the back side of that. We'd like to clean out that underbrush and lift it up so that you can see back in there, and probably would solve some of the trash dumping and the other stuff that's been going on down in there. But I think the day they come and widen that bridge again down in the future, which, who knows when that'll be, but, like most of these bridges go, they widen them at some point. They'll probably straighten that back out and take that property back over, so just a guess and speculation on my part.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this matter for or against, or neutral for that matter? Seeing none.
I would move that we approve this resolution and also end the hearing with the exception of the parking, removing that paid parking restriction.
Okay, I would second that motion. So a motion's been made by Commissioner Mays, Commissioner Rippon, seconded by Commissioner Mays. Those in favor say aye. Opposed, motion passes 2-0. Congratulations, thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioners.
All right, next item, please.
Item C, Information Technology. Number 1, consider authorization and execution of contract C-248-2022, a renewal of an annual maintenance contract with Imaging Office Systems, Inc. for the application extender document imaging software application suite at a cost of $41,750.
Morning, Commissioners. Mark Price, Information Technology. This is just the annual renewal of our maintenance on our document imaging system. This is used throughout the county by multiple departments for storing documents, and why IT probably wouldn't care if it went away. I think a lot of the people around here would be very upset. So we're requesting the approval of this. This is in our budget and is an expected expense.
I'll move for approval.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Mays, seconded by Commissioner Rippon. Those in favor say aye. Opposed, motion passes 2-0. Next item, please.
Item C2, consider authorization and execution of contract C-249-2022 with Telon Inc. for 100 hours of prepaid service for the support of the Azure infrastructure and applications at a cost of $21,500.
Morning, Commissioners. Mark Price again. This is a contract to get some support hours from Talon. Earlier this year, they did a evaluation of our Azure environment and the applications we have up there. Their recommendation for that had an actual contract that was about an $80,000 contract where they would have done a majority of the work to make that happen, to implement the recommendations. We decided it would be a little more cost-effective, and we have some of the skills where we could do part of that implementation, but then have them as a resource when we ran into a roadblock. So this is just a contract to get those hours to continue with that implementation from the previous evaluation that they had. We do have money in our budget to cover this, and I can answer any questions.
Any questions for Mark?
None. I would move for approval.
I'll second. Motion's been made by Commissioner Rippon, second by Commissioner Mays. Those in favor say aye. Opposed, motion passes 2-0. Next item, please.
Item C3, consider authorization and execution of contract C250-2022, a renewal of an annual maintenance contract with Central Square for the One Solution ERP application suite at a cost of $71,050.17, billed monthly.
Good morning, Commissioners. Mark Price for the last time. This is just our annual renewal of our ERP system for managing what goes through payroll, accounts payable, accounts receivable. Has HR functionality too. If you have any questions, I can answer them.
Any questions?
I'd move for approval.
Second. Motion's been made by Commissioner Rippon, seconded by Commissioner Mays. Those in favor say aye. Opposed, motion passes 2-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Next item, please.
Item D, Department of Corrections, number 1, consider authorization and execution of contract C251-22, a first amendment to the Memorandum of Understanding with the University of Kansas Center for Research for continued work in technical job skill training for female clients of community corrections through July 1, 2024, at no cost to the county.
Morning, Commissioners. Tim Phelps, Department of Corrections. We started this program in 2019, and it has proven to be a very valuable program to send our female clients to this technology training so that it can improve their ability to get a job. And this is based upon a federal grant with the National Science Foundation and KU, and they're covering a number of counties in the northeast Kansas and northwest Missouri area, and we're one of the counties they work with. I'll be happy to answer any other questions you have.
Commissioner Rippon?
Yeah, how many people take advantage of this?
Well, since we started, we've had 82 of our clients that have entered into the program, and so far 27 of them have received full certificates so that they can use those to get jobs. So all in all, it's pretty productive considering the clientele that we deal with.
Yeah, that's fantastic, and it doesn't cost us anything, so.
Correct.
Perfect. All right, I'll move for approval.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Mays, seconded by Commissioner Rippon. Those in favor say aye. Opposed, motion passes 2-0.
Thank you,
Tim.
Commissioners.
Next item, please.
Item E, Parks and Recreation, number 1, consider authorization and execution of contract C252-2022, a Topeka Model Railroaders Train Club agreement to provide an event on October 1st and 2nd at the Great Overland Station. The club will pay a social event fee of $500 to the department.
Good morning, Commissioners. John Bell, Recreation Program Supervisor. We are seeking approval for the attached contract between Shawnee County and the Topeka Model Railroaders. I have Lawrence Beret, the chair of the group, here, and I think he would like to say a few words about the club and the purpose of the event. So, Lawrence, you want to?
I guess I'm usually speaking to a bunch of ruly railroaders, so this is not my thing, I guess. I don't know where we come up with this idea, and I should slap the guy that started it, but somewhere along the line, we got tired of going to Kansas City, Wichita, Hutchinson, and all over the rest of the state of Kansas to go to a model railroad show. So what better place to have it in the Great Overland Station? I mean, I've never been to a railroad station in a railroad station. So this is something that somebody got behind, and we've started pushing a little bit. We're trying to bring in the young people for modeling. Not only railroads, but there's a lot of other things out there to model. It's a great hobby. It can be expensive, and it can be as cheap as you want to make it. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
That's great, thank you.
And I might note, too, that the dates for this event would be October 1st and 2nd.
Okay, great. Well, happy to see this happening, so I'll move for approval.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner May, seconded by Commissioner Rippon. Those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 2-0.
Thank you.
Congratulations, thank you very much. Next item, please.
Item F, Audit Finance. Number 1, consider authorization to solicit bids and/or proposals for mail services, including pickup, pre-sorting, postage, and processing of the county's mail.
Betty Griner, Director of Administrative Services. As Cindy stated, this is a request to solicit bids for our mail services. That includes them picking up the mail, pre-sorting it, putting the postage on, and then getting it to the mail, to the post office. By using this to do the pre-sorting, we save money on our postage. So it's been a few years, and so it's just time to go out for bid on this.
All right, I'll make a motion that we approve that.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner May, seconded by Commissioner Rippon. Those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 2-0.
Thank you.
Benny. Next item, please.
Item 5, public comment.
I don't have anybody signed up for public comment today. Is there anyone from the public wishing to speak? Seeing none, next item, please.
Item 6, Administrative Communications.
All right. Bill Sutton looks very eager.
Good morning, Commissioner. Bill Sutton, Shawnee County Solid Waste. Just would like to remind everybody that the end of the month is here, and this weekend, September 3rd, will be our Household Hazardous Waste Saturday collection event. So we're open from 9 until noon out there, so go ahead and bring out your household hazardous waste, all electronic waste as well. No paint sales on Saturday, and the location is 131 Northeast 46th Street up north. For more information, please call 286-4381. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Bill. Anyone else? Okay. Commissioner Rippon.
I don't have anything to add today.
I don't have a whole lot to add, but I did want to say I had the chance to go out in downtown this weekend, and there was a ton of stuff going on. They had a big fight night at Great Life downtown. I would say there were several hundred people there, and then over Evergy Plaza they had the Forge Fest, which was a really neat event as well, with food trucks and live music, and so it's great to see downtown alive and well. Hope to see more of that in the future, hopefully when it's not quite as hot, but fun to see that. So anyways, that's all I've got right now. So next item, please.
Item 7, executive session.
We do not have a need for executive session, so we are adjourned.